Hello, my friends, a Gemar Chasima Tova. I know that there's a lot that has been written about the association between Windows and Rosh Hashanah. Not Windows, the operating system, but actual windows, looking through a window. We know that we blew 100 blasts of the shofar to remind us of Sisera's mother, who stood by the window and cried 100 times waiting for her son Sisera to come home from the battle, which is in itself a bizarre imagery. But according to the Zohar, God too stands by a window on Rosh Hashanah, peering through the lattices, waiting for us to return to him. There's an interesting passage in the Zohar which goes even further, and it connects God looking through the window to Yom Kippur as well. In Tikkunei Zohar, there's a very cryptic passage that says that not only was there a window regarding Sisera's mother, but there's another window that appears much earlier in the Chumash. It's the story of Noah, the story of Noah on the ark. And the Torah tells us that after 40 days of the rain's abatement, Noah opened the window of the teva, of the ark, and he sees around him a land where the mountaintops are now visible. Says Tikkunei Zohar, Da Yom Kippurim. This refers to Yom Kippur, because the Ark of Noah is the repository for some divine presence of godliness that relates to our world in some way. What are we supposed to make of this? I think that if we look at the story of what happened after Noah opened up the window of the ark, we might get some better insight. The Torah tells us, we're just going to read this in a few weeks, that what did Noah do? He wanted to see if there was dry land out there, and so he sent forth first a raven, and when the raven lingered by the ark, just flying haloch vashov to and fro, Noah allowed the raven to come back in and then sent later on the dove. The dove flies out, can't find anything and comes back. Noah waits another 7 days, sends out the dove again, and it comes back, of course, as we know, with an olive branch, and that's how Noah knows that there is land to be found. Later on sends the dove out a third time, and this time the dove does not come back. Noah knows that the dove has found dry land. What is this story all about? Did you ever ask yourself why Noah chose to send out a raven before a dove? If you and I were looking for an imagery of optimism for the future, wouldn't we have thought that Noah should have sent out the dove first? Why a black bird? Why a dark bird? Why a raven? So much has been written about the raven. Look at Edgar Allan Poe's poem about the raven, representing darkness and horror. Why? I think that on a deeper level, we have to ask ourselves the question, am I a raven or am I a dove? What do I mean by that? There are so many different ways of looking at the world outside of us. Sometimes we feel such spiritual devotion to Hashem that we wish to eschew and reject Olam Hazeh, this world. We wish to cling close to the ark of godliness and say, if I venture out beyond the borders of my spiritual domain, perhaps I will become tainted, perhaps I will become spoiled, and therefore, because I look at the world as a very dark place, at the physical world filled with pitfalls and traps, that's how I view the world, in a very dark way. I stay close to the ark and I fly only around the ark, waiting to always come back in. But there's another way to look at the physical world. I can look at it with optimism. I can look at it in a brighter way and say, yes, of course, there's danger, there's peril, there's pitfalls, but at the same time, if God sent me into this world, there must be a reason, there must be a purpose. Perhaps I can make a positive difference. Perhaps there's something I can glean from this world and I can be the force of positive change in the world. And that's the reason why I was put here in the first place. And so I think that perhaps on Yom Kippur, which the Zohar tells us is the day that Noah opens this window and begins this process, is to remind us that we're all supposed to ask ourselves the question, why did God open the window into this world and send me as one of his birds out into the world? There's nothing wrong with being a raven, and perhaps that's my function, to remain within my insular spiritual environment and to serve Hashem that way. Perhaps my purpose is to be a dove and to go out into the world optimistically and try to make a difference, be a force of positive change, but at the same time guarding myself in the process. Whether you're a raven or a dove, I think it's a question that we best ponder over the time that we spend in shul and elsewhere on Yom Kippur. Ask ourselves the question, why did God send me off the ark into this physical world? What is my purpose? What should I be accomplishing? That's one of the questions that would be well asked if we wish to spend Yom Kippur in a positive and productive way. Wishing you a Gemar Chasima Tova and all the best for the coming.